special edition of the Winning Daily Podcast. We got our man, Dynamite David, with us. Dynamite, we're going to go back over the NCAA tournament. We're going to look back over the first round. Then we're going to touch on the Sweet 16. Are you ready to get into some more NCAA tournament action?
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
All right, so let's kick off. First, I saw across the scroll that Lon Kruger has retired after 45 years of coaching college basketball, and I think really sort of one of the underrated coaches in college basketball. Every program he ever went to, he turned around and made a consistent winner. I think I don't know if you probably aren't old enough to remember him at Kansas State when he first went there off of Texas Pan American, and Mitch Richmond was on that team famously enough. And then really the renaissance of Florida basketball, everybody thinks it started with Billy Donovan, but it actually started with Lon Kruger and Andrew DeClercq and Dimitri Hill on those teams, and making that Final Four in '94 before he went to the pros. He went back to Illinois, turned that program around, and then turned around a UNLV program that was dying. And since he left, it's been dying again. And funny enough, his son took over for the team just this year. So we'll see if the legacy lives on. And then to close out his career, he went to Oklahoma and kept that program afloat after the Kelvin Sampson disgrace of leaving. So I just thought I'd give a shout out to Lon Kruger, who was a really, really good college basketball coach for a very long time.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see who Oklahoma brings in, see if we can get another big name coach in the Big 12.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into those first round matchups. It was a wild and crazy first and second round tournament. I think both me and you, we both had a handful of upsets in our bracket. So I think we knew some madness was coming. I don't think we knew quite this much madness was coming. What did you make of these first two rounds, and why do you think there were so many upsets in these first two rounds?
Yeah, some of these I saw coming, but I can never quite pull the trigger on some of them just because, I'm trying to think with my head too much when I'm making out a bracket. And I think I quit tracking my bracket at about 7 p.m. on first day of round one. But, I had a funny feeling. We talked about this on our pick special. I had a funny feeling about Oral Roberts. I liked their, Amos, and I liked, or however you pronounce his last name. I've been corrected on it many times. But best scorer in the country, and they shoot up some threes. Whether they're hitting or they're missing, they make sure they get their shots up, and they can upset anybody on a given day. So I kind of had a feeling that was going. I wish I had placed my money line bet and not parlayed it up with some other picks. If I had just done that money line bet straight, I would have won a little bit of cash on that one. But didn't pick him in my bracket. Let's see. I'm trying to go back over the others. I didn't see. Syracuse. I was surprised by them going as far as they did. I mean, I guess you should never count out Jim Boeheim.
No, that matchup zone gives people problems still for some reason. I don't know why. We don't know it's coming, but I guess it still gives people problems. But they play a matchup zone. Maybe have that in your arsenal when you come up against it sometime.
Yeah, and then, we've talked about this a bunch. Loyola Chicago, I almost don't even really categorize that in with my upsets. Just because they were underseeded. And I think probably the biggest surprise in the Sweet 16 is going to be Oregon State for me.
Yeah.
Being a Vol fan, I'm not shocked they got past the Vols, but getting past that second round and Oklahoma State just really caught me off guard.
Yeah. I think really other than, maybe Oral Roberts being in the Sweet 16, but really once they beat Ohio State, I don't think anybody was totally stunned that they were going to beat Florida or Virginia Tech. So I don't count that necessarily as a stunning thing once you beat Ohio State.
Well, you watched that first half of the Oral Roberts Florida game. Florida should have run away with that game.
Yeah.
And just them being Florida, they couldn't close it out.
Yeah. I guess a little bit UCLA being in there, but I mean, they had good stretches throughout the season, and really more than anything, they had a couple injuries at the end of the year. So I think that's why I think people were a little bit more down on them than anything. And really, if Michigan State knew how to close out a game, we might not even be seeing UCLA right now. But they blew a 16-point lead, and UCLA somehow makes it through. But, they got a matchup with BYU, snuck that one out. And then as much as I think I enjoy Abilene Christian, when Abilene Christian and UCLA matched up, there's a little bit of a talent difference on the floor there.
Yeah, I think I had the winner of UCLA Michigan beating BYU. I wasn't big on that BYU team, but I did not see them making it to the Sweet 16, but I also didn't see them matching up with Abilene Christian in that second round.
Yeah.
But I thought that was Abilene Christian got by Texas, but they shot 28% in that game. UCLA was one of my locks that second round. I thought they were going to destroy them, and they beat them by 20.
Yeah. We touched on it, the Loyola Chicago. That's probably, I think Illinois being out is maybe the most stunning thing, because I think we all thought Illinois was a very, very good team. But I don't think anybody is totally stunned that they lost to this Loyola Chicago team. I think both me and you said on the bracket show special that this might be the second best team in the bracket on this side. So
this just proves that no matter what the committee says they're going by, name recognition means the most. USC was a 6 seed, Loyola Chicago an 8 seed. Loyola Chicago is way better than USC in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, that's why, I mean, we were talking about it. Honestly, if you took every team in this bracket, I don't think Loyola Chicago, you would say, would be a real underdog in any of these matchups, other than maybe Houston, and we might get that matchup coming to fruition.
Well, that'd be an ugly game. Oh
yeah, it would. That one's going to be pretty slow. This one coming up with Oregon State might be a little ugly as well. I do think the Oregon State one's probably the most surprising to me, really. They were pretty much atrocious through 24 games of the season, and then somehow made that little run in the Pac-12 tournament and have been flowing for 4 or 5 games now.
Well, I hit them with a couple of picks there the last couple of weeks of the regular season, so I kind of saw it coming a little bit. I didn't think they would get past Oregon in the tournament, but they've gotten a really good rhythm. They've got guys hitting shots. Their post players are playing amazing, and when you've got that well-rounded offense and you can play solid defense, you can make a good tournament run. They're very well-rounded, and I think that's where the teams that are successful in the tournament, because they don't just have that one go-to guy, and because teams that know what they're doing, they'll just shut down one-dimensional teams.
Yes. Well, I think that's I don't think either of us were totally stunned that Tennessee lost to Oregon State. Judging by what we watched on offense, all year long, I think we both pretty much knew after those first 5 minutes, it was like, oh, this is going to be the bad Tennessee offense. So they have no chance of winning. I will admit, shocked that they were able to just control the pace and execute on Oklahoma State the way they did. And really, they dominated that whole game. It wasn't really like they snuck one out here. They pretty much just chewed Oklahoma State up and spit them out pretty good there.
Yeah, that's another team I thought was, Oklahoma State. I thought they were underseeded. I think they were pushing a 2 seed, should have been at least a 3. Got a 4, but they got a favorable matchup against Oregon State and still couldn't take care of business. So
definitely.
Sometimes it doesn't.
So since we're on a reset here in the Sweet 16, what are your favorites right now coming out of this new Sweet 16 to Final Four? Are you changing your mind on the Zags? I think we were both a little down on Baylor heading into the tournament, and I will say the 2 games I watched them play, they looked much more like the Baylor team we saw at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I think I owe Baylor a little bit of an apology because they've really impressed me these first 2 rounds. I guess they were just coasting through the second half of the regular season. May have been a smart play, stay healthy, stay under the radar. because I still don't think they're on everybody's radar. Everybody's looking at Gonzaga, but Baylor's only sitting there with 2 losses on the season.
Yes, correct.
So they're right there behind Gonzaga, and actually looking at depth, I love Gonzaga, but they only play 7 or 8 guys most games, and if you get into a game with foul trouble, they're going to run into some real issues real quick. And we get down to the Final Four and these games get real nasty. It could be some trouble for Gonzaga.
Well, yeah, I think the national championship game a couple of years ago for Gonzaga, when some guys got into foul trouble quite early in the North Carolina matchup, and I don't know if it cost them. That was a very good North Carolina team, but it definitely hammers you if you don't quite have that depth. Michigan, the only team coming out of the Big Ten in the Sweet 16. I did
My conference.
Yes, I did think the Big Ten was a little overrated, but I don't think I would have said one team would have been in the Sweet 16 from the Big Ten. It did sort of break that way, but what are your thoughts on Michigan? Can they make a run here, or or are they going to get bounced out before the Final Four as well?
But before I answer that, what's more surprising, one team from the Big Ten in the Sweet 16 or 4 teams from the Pac-12 in the Sweet 16?
Well, I think this 4 teams from the Pac-12.
We didn't even think 4 teams were worthy of being in the tournament.
Well, I don't. I'm not sure if you ask me again if I think 4 teams are worthy of being in the tournament. Oregon definitely got the little bit of a break. I mean, I don't know how much of a break it was. They kicked Iowa's butt so bad that I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's because you had an extra day off and the other team played, especially Iowa playing Grand Canyon the day before. But Oregon got that little break because VCU sadly got hit with the COVID thing. I texted you when it happened, and I was just like, what the hell was the point of having fill-in teams if you weren't going to use them on the actual day of the game? And you were like, oh, they were only using him till like Tuesday, and then everything had to be set. What did you make of that situation?
I guess it just goes to show you, no matter what protocols you're following, it's some people are just going to get it, because I think these teams bubbled almost 2 weeks. I mean, as soon as their conference championships were over, they were in the bubble.
Yeah.
And so it was just unfortunate to see. And I wish they had a little bit, they should have brought some teams to Indy just to be on call, like they're in the bubble, ready to go up till game day, I think. I mean, they were all playing in the same city anyway. It wouldn't have been that difficult. It's not like you have to travel across country. So I thought that was a little unfortunate and gives a little bit of advantage to Oregon, but they just came out and handled Iowa. So I don't know if they had struggled a little bit against VCU, if that would have made that game a little different, but Iowa just doesn't play defense, and I don't know if they could have beat many of these teams.
Well, I think I think we were both on that one. I think we liked watching Iowa play, but they just don't defend. It's a little different than like Gonzaga, who scores a lot like Iowa, but they just play a high possession game, so it looks like they don't defend. But Gonzaga gets a lot of steals and turnovers and rebounds really well, and just creates break points where Iowa just tries to outscore you. And in a tournament matchup, that's a very dangerous game to sort of play, because either you're going to have one of the days where you don't shoot well, which Iowa didn't, and Oregon did shoot well and just lit them up. Curious about the Florida State. They made it all the way through. They're pretty much the dying ACC team here, depending on what you want to consider Syracuse. I'm an old school person, so they might be affiliated with the ACC, but Syracuse is a Big East team in my head, so I'm not quite going to go there. The conference was down. I think we both thought North Carolina would be a little bit more let's say defensive minded in the Wisconsin game. They were not. Virginia, that was a bad circumstance overall, but the ACC a little down as well as the Big Ten here.
Yeah, going back to your earlier question with this Michigan and Florida State matchup, I really like Michigan in this matchup. I think if they can play their style of ball offensively, they're a better team than Florida State. But if this game gets a little too nasty, Florida State may have the advantage. So I'm interested to see how that momentum starts early on, because I think whoever sets the pace of play is going to determine the outcome of that game.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So we touched on last week. Are you ready to get into this week? We're going to pick all the games again, and then we're going to give our best bets on the Sweet 16 matchup. So you ready to give us all your picks on these Sweet 16 games?
Yeah, I've got a few that I've gone back and forth on. I think I've told you I like it one way, and I've already flip-flopped it again. So I guess as of this recording, I'm locked in. So
yeah,
let's give it a go.
All right. So we'll start out with the first game on Saturday, Oregon State versus the aforementioned Loyola Chicago. Loyola Chicago no longer getting good lines here. 6.5-point favorites versus Oregon State. I think we both talked about it here. This is going to be a very half-court type game here. What are you thinking on Loyola Oregon State?
I think this is a game Loyola is going to control from the get-go, but that 6.5 worries me. I think I could see them, holding it around that much the whole game. I don't know if they're going to pull away by double figures, but I'm going to take Loyola Chicago minus 6.5.
Yeah, I think that if I had to handicap this line, I think 4.5 would be a number I'd want to put on Loyola Chicago here, but I think this game probably maintains about a 7 to 10 point margin all the way through. But then when that game gets tight there at the end, I'd be a little scared that something happens here where Loyola ends up winning by 5, and I'm like, well, that didn't work out too well. I think the pick would probably be Loyola Chicago, just because this Oregon State team, I keep thinking this run has to die down at some point and you revert back to your normal self. But it hasn't happened so far, and they look like an old school Princeton team from Pete Carrill in the 70s or something out there executing. But I'd probably pick Loyola Chicago here if I had to make a pick on it. All right, next up. I forgot to touch on this team because I don't think anybody actually thought this team was going to be here. Funny enough, though they've won 3 national championships in their career. Villanova versus Baylor. Villanova decided to start playing really good basketball in the tournament here. Beat a solid Winthrop team in that first round and then cruised in the second round. But Baylor 7.5-point favorites here. What are you feeling on the Villanova-Baylor matchup?
Like I said, apologies to Baylor. I'm rolling with Baylor here. I think they're going to win this one big.
Yeah, I think we were both down on Villanova. I guess we're both going to be down on Villanova once more. They're going to end up in the national championship game, and we're both going to be eating our words here.
I think they're going to struggle offensively to keep up with Baylor in this one.
Yeah, but I'm rolling with Baylor from what I've seen in those first 2 rounds. Their athleticism and speed is ridiculous when they get flowing. So I'm going to ride Baylor in the 7.5 here. All right, this one should be an action-packed game here. I'm looking for points in this one. Oral Roberts at Arkansas. This is... Once again, Oral Roberts getting a lot of points here. No one seems to really want to totally respect them. Arkansas, 11-point favorites versus Oral Roberts. What way are you leaning on this one?
Well, I told you one way this morning, but I'm going to have to go with my Golden Eagles. Oral Roberts, I think 11 is just too much. I definitely see Arkansas winning this game, but I think this game could go from a 5-point game to a 20-point game back to a 5-point game in a matter of 2 to 3 minutes of game time. So it's going to be all over the place. And I'm going to take the 11 points in a tournament game, Sweet 16.
Yeah.
And I think both these teams played earlier in the regular season. I believe Arkansas won by about 6 or 7 points.
It was a
Oral Roberts was up for a while in that game.
It was a low, maybe 1-2 possession game with about a minute or 2 to go. It was anybody's game. These two teams are just going to score. Like you mentioned it, I can see either side being up 15-20 and, this getting right back down the way these Yeah, can just explode on points. 11 also seems very, very high to me, but, I'd also be very nervous that they're going to foul, a whole lot at the end to try to scrap by. I do think Arkansas is going to win the game, but I just can't take 11 in a Sweet 16 game like this.
Another thing I look for Oral Roberts to capitalize on is Arkansas, in their up and down play style, they get a little sloppy, have a lot of turnovers.
Yeah.
And if Oral Roberts can hit some shots and capitalize, they could jump on them pretty quick.
Yeah, I will take Oral Roberts and plus the 11. I think if this dips by like game time down to a 9, I'd start to lean more towards the Arkansas side. But I think as long as it stays in the double digits, I'd lean Oral Roberts' way. Okay, I don't know if this one's going to be pretty. And if it gets to 40, I'm going to be a little shocked. But Syracuse and Houston here. Houston 6-point favorites. The one Big Ten team who had greatness grasp in their hands, Rutgers, really decided to melt those last 2 minutes. I don't know if anybody actually watched those games, but Rutgers dominated for 38 minutes and then completely fell apart the last 2. They also, for some reason, decided to go into the four corners style offense with about 6 minutes to go, which I found a little weird in the shot clock era. You might want to wait a little bit before you start stalling out a game. But Houston's 6-point favorites versus Q's team. Houston, do you like them here to move on after their scare versus Rutgers?
Yeah, I think that scare is actually going to help them. They had a flash of being out of the tournament. They managed to survive. I think that'll bring some determination to this team. I think this is a team that played beneath their potential in that last game. I think they're a very strong team, and I look for them to come out and dominate Syracuse.
Yeah, I think we talked about it. Every once in a while, this Houston team has one of those weird games where they can't score points. And they had that versus Rutgers, but they managed to win the game. So I look for them to get back on track in this one. And I'm going to ride with Houston. They also now have a week to prepare for that matchup zone. So
through 4, we're picking the same exact picks.
Well, yeah, I think so. All right, we'll get to day 2. We'll go with Creighton and Gonzaga. We probably have the same ones on this one, but Gonzaga, 13-point favorites. Can Creighton hang with them long enough to cover this 13?
This is the second matchup that I've been back and forth on. One day I'm really big on one team, but I'm going to go with Creighton plus the 13. 13 is an awful lot for a Sweet 16 matchup, and this could turn into a shooting match, which actually benefits Creighton as long as they're hitting some. But I think I'm going to take the 13 points.
Yeah, I think I have to ride Gonzaga here. I think it was telling, that game versus Oklahoma. That was the worst they had shot all season long, and they still end up winning the game by like 17. So, I mean, I haven't found a flaw in Gonzaga yet. So, I don't know if the pressure will start ramping up more and more as they try to, reach this really ridiculous thing to go undefeated in college basketball and win a national championship. It hasn't been done since 78 in Indiana. There have been a couple teams who have tried. UNLV, most notably that Kentucky team with Karl Anthony Towns, all got beat, and I think the pressure ran up. We'll get into the Wichita State getting screwed over by the tournament committee, possibly on a summer show or sometime when they were going to make their undefeated run. But anyway, I think I have to ride Gonzaga here, though I really love watching the Creighton Blue Jays play basketball, but I don't want to mess with the Gonzaga. I think they accidentally win by 15 to 20 every game they play. All right, we'll move on to Florida State and Michigan. We touched on this matchup a little bit. Very interesting line here. Michigan 2.5-point favorites. Where are you sitting on this one?
I like Michigan minus 2.5 here. I think offensively. If they're hitting their shots, they're going to score in the 70s. And Florida State, unless they're having a really solid game, I see them hanging around the 50s or 60s. So I think Michigan outclasses them offensively and is going to win this game.
Yeah. I think I'm going to ride Florida State here just because I'm going to ride the Big Ten non-momentum. And I do think this Florida State team they have the athletes to match up with Michigan. Now, can they find their way to score enough points? I don't know, but I think they'll be able to defend them and keep them in the game. I think the pressure is now on Michigan, and they might feel it a little bit to be the lone Big Ten team trying to salvage what the conference probably thought they were going to do in the NCAA tournament before. But I'm going to go with Florida State plus the 2.5. All right, next up, UCLA versus Alabama. Alabama 6.5-point favorites. Where are you going here? Interesting matchup.
Alabama's another team you look at that really good starting lineup, but I worry about their depth. But I think Alabama's going to win this game pretty handily. Cover that 6.5.
Yeah, I think I'm riding Alabama here. They played very interesting sort of 2 games where it's been close, and then they, just hit that major run and go on a 15, 20-point run here. I just think UCLA's runs over more than anything here, and I think Alabama puts it on them. I think this is a really good Alabama team, and I think they probably have their sights pretty set on that Final Four. I think they could get there now, and they're believing. So I'm going to take Alabama minus the 6.5 as well. All right, a Pac-12 matchup. Next up in the Sweet 16, Oregon, USC. USC is 2-point favorites. Do you like the Mobley brothers here, or are you riding with Dana Altman and the Ducks?
I'm going with Oregon here. I like them getting 2, honestly, here. I'm surprised they're not the favorites. I guess USC's getting some favoritism from the way they've played so far in the tournament. But I think besides that odd Pac-12 tournament game Oregon had, I think they've been playing really well towards the end of the year, and I think they're going to come out and dominate this USC Trojans.
Yeah, this one's going to hurt my soul a little bit. I think I'm going to ride with USC for.
You were so down on them.
I know. I think I'm becoming a believer in the Mobley. Both of them are good, but one of them is really, really good. I don't know. It feels like maybe this is one of those weird runs where those talented guys carry them. It hurts me a lot to take against Dana Altman. I really like this Ducks team, but I don't know. I'm feeling a weird USC run here. So, and at 2, I don't think the value is great, but I'm going to ride with USC and the value there. All right, so. What do you have as your best bets for the Sweet 16 round?
Well, I really like day 2 for my best bets. Most of my picks are on that one. I really like Michigan minus 2.5. I had them in my Final Four. They're still there. I think they're going to take care of this Florida State team. So that's going to be my first one. And then I've got a couple in this Alabama-UCLA game. One, I really like Alabama to cover the 6.5. I'm surprised the spread's actually that low. I know UCLA's played well, but, they played Abilene Christian in the second round. And I also like the over 145.5 here. I think when this Alabama team's on, they can score 80 to 90 points. And UCLA is not too shabby offensively either, so I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. So I'm going to take the over there. Also, we just touched on it. I like Oregon plus 2 versus USC. I think they're going to come out and win big here. And then my last bet back on day 1, I'm going to go with Baylor minus 7.5 versus Villanova. I really feel bad about the way I treated them going into the tournament. They've proven to be the team they were at the beginning of the year. And athletically, they're just going to come out and dominate Villanova.
Yeah. Day one, the only real bet I feel confident in is Baylor at -7.5. I think Baylor's going to roll in that one. By Saturday, actual hovering around game time, and I start to get antsy, there's a solid chance I'll talk myself into Houston and be thoroughly disappointed watching a very low scoring and bricky game.
No Oral Roberts money line?
No Oral Roberts money line. I might stare at that over, though. It's very, very high.
I think it was 168 last I
Yes,
saw.
I know. But I think that one might, if it hits 170, I might end up switching and going under. But anyway, definitely Baylor on day one. Stick with me, and by Saturday I might have talked myself into Houston by later that day. Day two on the Sweet 16, I like that Florida State +2.5, and I like the USC -2. So we're going to be
going against
dueling
each other.
Yeah, I know, we're going to be dueling in day two. Also, I possibly might talk myself into Gonzaga by the time of that game. I was mad I didn't bet them in either of their first two games, especially that first one when the spread was only about 30 and I knew Gonzaga was going to win by about 50 points. But anyway, two of them, I like Florida State getting the 2.5. I like USC -2. The Alabama game, I don't know. That 6.5 just, I don't like Mick Cronin. I feel like weird strategies are going to conspire against me to get that to like 5, and I'm just going to be a sad loser on that day. So 3 picks are my best bets over the Sweet 16 weekend for now. We might have a couple change ups as the days get closer and closer. All right, be sure to follow us on greenlightnetwork.org, Greenlight Network on Facebook and YouTube. Dynamite David, where can we find you?
Follow me on Twitter at GLN_D.
And I'm GLN Champ 5 on Twitter and Instagram. That's our show, and we're out.